In the stillness of a rainy night, 5-year-old Emma wakes to a faint, heartbreaking whimper coming from inside her bedroom wall. No one else hears it. Her parents think it's the old house settling, but Emma knows it's a dog, trapped, terrified, alone, just like the emptiness she's carried since losing her grandmother, the one person who truly understood her love for animals. What follows is a journey that will move you to tears, a child's quiet gift, a loyal German shepherd named Nova who survived the impossible, and a bond so powerful it uncovers hidden cruelty, heals old wounds, and proves that love can reach through walls, literal and not. This is more than a rescue story. It's proof that the smallest hearts often hold the greatest courage. If this already pulls you in, like, share, and subscribe, because this story is just beginning. The old Victorian house stood quiet under a late October rain, its windows fogged, the porch light a soft yellow halo against the wet dark. Inside, the air smelled of fresh paint and old wood, and the silence felt heavier than it should. Emma Hayes was 5, small for her age, with light brown hair falling in loose strands around a face still round with baby fat. She wore her grandmother's oversized pale pink sweater most nights now, the sleeves rolled twice so her hands could peek out. The sweater carried the faint scent of lavender and the woman who used to read to her about foxes and owls until sleep came easy. Grandmother had passed 3 months earlier, sudden and quiet, the way old hearts sometimes do. Since then, Emma had learned how to cry without sound, face pressed into the pillow, shoulders barely moving. The move to this house was supposed to help everyone forget, but forgetting is harder when the grief follows you room to room. That night she woke at 2:17, the red numbers on the clock glowing like small coals. The house creaked, settling into its bones, but there was another sound, soft, ragged, almost a whimper. It came from the wall beside her bed. Emma sat up, blanket clutched to her chest, listening. The sound paused, then returned, thinner, more desperate. Not wind, not pipes, a living thing, small and afraid. She slid from the bed, bare feet cold on the floorboards, and pressed her ear to the plaster. The whimper answered, faint but clear. A dog, she thought, a dog crying inside the wall. The realization settled in her chest like a stone, heavy and certain. Someone else was lonely here, too. She whispered into the dark, voice barely louder than breath, "It's okay. I'm here." The crying stopped for a moment, as if the creature had heard. Emma kept talking, words tumbling slow and simple. "My grandma went away, and I miss her. Do you miss someone?" Silence again, then a small answering whine. She felt it in her ribs, that shared ache. She padded to the kitchen, found a shallow bowl, filled it with water, and carried it back with 2 crackers balanced on the rim. Kneeling, she set the bowl against the baseboard. "Drink if you can. I'll come back tomorrow." She stayed there a long time, cheek against the cool wall, until her eyelids grew heavy and she crawled back to bed, whispering one last promise. "I won't leave you." Morning came gray and damp. Michael Hayes, 36, stood at the stove in a dark gray hoodie, stirring oatmeal he would barely eat. His short dark hair was still damp from the shower. He shaved every day, but always looked a little tired around the eyes. He worked from home now, screens and code his quiet companions. Sophia, 35, moved through the kitchen in a light beige cardigan, auburn hair pulled into a loose knot. She had the gentle strength of someone who had learned to carry sorrow without letting it show. They both watched Emma come down the stairs in the same sweater, dark circles under her eyes. "Did you sleep, sweetheart?" Sophia asked, voice soft. Emma nodded, climbed onto a chair. "There's a dog in my wall. She's scared." Michael gave a small chuckle, ruffling her hair. "Old houses talk, Em. Probably just the wind." "It's not the wind," she said quietly, looking straight at him. "She's crying. She's thirsty." Sophia and Michael exchanged glances, the kind parents give when worry flickers behind reassurance. They had heard the stories of imaginary friends after the funeral. This felt different, though. Emma didn't eat much. She drew all morning instead, careful lines of a German shepherd, ears pointed, eyes wide. Trapped behind thick gray bars, she colored black. At school, the teacher called. "She's been drawing the same picture for days," the woman said over the phone. "A dog inside a wall. She says it's real. I thought you should know." Sophia hung up, looked at the drawing on the refrigerator. The dog's eyes were too knowing for a child's hand. That evening, Emma sat cross-legged on her rug, facing the wall again. She didn't cry anymore. She simply waited. The whimper came once, faint, grateful. She pressed her palm flat against the plaster and spoke low. "I'm going to find you," she said. "I promise." The house held its breath. Rain tapped softly on the roof that week, steady as a heartbeat too tired to hurry. The house smelled of damp leaves and coffee left too long on the warmer. Downstairs, the kitchen light stayed on longer each evening, a small island in the gathering dark. Sophia Hayes moved through those days with the quiet purpose of someone who had learned to carry questions without letting them spill. 35, auburn hair slipping from its knot by afternoon, she wore her beige cardigan like armor against the chill that had settled in her chest. Her eyes, soft hazel, held a patient weariness, the look of a mother who had watched her child grieve and now wondered if she had missed something deeper. She found the journals in the attic one Saturday while sorting boxes. 3 worn notebooks, edges curled, tucked behind an old trunk. The handwriting was careful at first, then jagged, as if the pen had begun to fight the hand holding it. Evelyn Whitaker's name was written inside the cover in neat blue ink. Sophia sat on the dusty floorboards, knees drawn up, and read. Evelyn had been alone for years, the pages said. A woman in her 60s when she disappeared, thin and tall once, now stooped by solitude. She had rescued a German shepherd puppy from a roadside shelter 16 years earlier. Nova, she named her, because the dog arrived on a night when the stars felt close enough to touch. The early entries were tender. Walks in the woods, Nova's head resting on Evelyn's knee by the fire, the way the dog's steady breathing pulled her back from nights when despair pressed too hard. "She saved me," Evelyn wrote, "when no one else would stay." Sophia's throat tightened. She knew that kind of saving. She had felt it in the way Emma used to curl against her grandmother's side, listening to stories of animals who spoke in dreams. The later pages changed. Words grew frantic. Nova watched her sleep. Nova knew her thoughts. Nova was wired, sent to spy. The final entries described the plan: a false wall in the basement, a small vent for air, concrete poured in silence. "It's the only way to keep the signals out," Evelyn wrote. Then the pages stopped. Sophia closed the last notebook, dust settling on her hands. She carried them downstairs, set them on the kitchen table like fragile evidence. Michael came in from the garage, wiping oil from his fingers, his gray hoodie streaked with rain. He looked at the books, then at her face. "What is it?" he asked quietly. She told him. He listened without interrupting, the way he had learned to do when words felt heavier than actions. When she finished, he sat beside her, shoulder touching hers. For a long moment neither spoke. The rain kept falling outside, patient, unhurried. That evening, Sophia brought Emma to the living room. The girl sat on the rug in her pink sweater, knees drawn up, small hands clasped. Sophia knelt beside her, opened the first journal to a gentle page, the one about the rescue. "Listen, sweetheart," she said. Her voice was low, careful. She read aloud. The night Evelyn found Nova shivering in a crate, the way the puppy looked up with eyes that said thank you before words were needed. Emma's gaze lifted slowly. "She saved her," Sophia continued. "Nova was her friend when she was very sad. But later, Evelyn got scared. She thought Nova was something she wasn't." Emma's brow furrowed. "Like when I'm scared of the dark?" Sophia nodded. "Exactly like that. Sometimes grown-ups get lost inside their own heads." Emma looked toward the wall upstairs. "Nova's not bad," she whispered. "She's just stuck, like Evelyn was." Sophia felt something loosen in her chest, a small, reluctant belief taking root. She touched Emma's hair. "Maybe you're right," she said. Maybe she needs someone who isn't afraid to listen. The house seemed to exhale then. Upstairs, in the quiet of her room, Emma pressed her palm to the wall again. No sound came at first. Then, faint as a sigh, the whimper returned, grateful, tired, trusting. Emma closed her eyes. "I know your name now," she murmured. "Nova. You were brave once. You will be again." She stayed there until the room grew dark, until the promise felt solid enough to hold. November brought colder nights, the kind that made the old house creak like it was remembering its youth. The basement smelled of wet concrete and dust long undisturbed. A single bulb hung overhead, casting long shadows that moved when no one else did. Dr. Elena Reyes arrived one gray afternoon in her white veterinary blouse, sleeves rolled to the elbows, dark hair tied back neatly. 43, with the steady hands and calm voice of someone who had seen too many endings but still believed in second chances. She knelt beside the section of wall Emma had pointed to, flashlight beam steady. Michael held the sledgehammer, hesitating. Sophia kept one arm around Emma, who stood barefoot in her pink sweater, small face set with quiet certainty. The first crack echoed like a sigh released. Plaster fell in soft clumps. Behind it, a narrow space, barely wider than a dog's shoulders. And there she was. Nova. The German shepherd lay curled in the dimness, ribs sharp under matted black and tan fur, eyes half open, breathing shallow. A small vent high on the wall let in thin light and the occasional drip of rainwater. "Months," Elena whispered. Somehow she had lasted months. Michael's hands shook as he worked the rest of the wall free. When the opening was wide enough, Nova lifted her head, slow, painful, and looked straight at Emma. Not at the adults, only at the child. A faint tail thump against concrete. Emma stepped forward, knelt, and reached out. Nova's nose touched her palm, dry and warm. In that moment, something passed between them, wordless, older than language. Elena worked quickly. Fluids, a blanket stretcher, gentle hands guiding the emaciated body into the light. Nova did not resist. She only watched Emma. The days that followed were slow, deliberate. Nova lay on a thick pad in the living room, IV line taped to one foreleg, warming blanket draped over her thin frame. She weighed half what she should. Pressure sores bloomed red on her hips and elbows. Yet every time Emma entered the room, Nova's ears lifted. The girl sat beside her for hours, small hand resting on the dog's side, feeling the faint rise and fall. At first Emma grew restless. "When will she run with me?" she asked Elena one afternoon. The veterinarian knelt, eye level with the child. "She's healing inside first," Elena said gently. "It takes time. You have to wait with her." Emma frowned, then nodded. She began to help, holding the water bowl steady, while Nova lapped slowly, guiding her through simple stretches Elena demonstrated. Each small movement felt like a victory. Emma learned patience in those quiet hours. She spoke to Nova about grandmother, how she used to laugh at the stories of dogs who found their way home. "You found your way to me," Emma whispered one evening. Nova's eyes met hers, dark and knowing. The girl felt the old ache soften, just a little. Nova was teaching her to wait, the way grandmother had waited for the right moment to tell a story. In the waiting, grief became something shared, less sharp. Words spread quietly at first, then louder. Neighbors stopped by with blankets, food for the dog, questions in hushed voices. The local paper ran a small piece. "Miracle dog rescued from wall." People called it impossible. Elena called it stubborn will. One evening, Emma sat with Nova on the rug, the room lit only by the fireplace. She closed her eyes and listened, not with her ears, but deeper. Images came, dark woods, fallen leaves, a woman's shadow walking away. Emma opened her eyes. "She's in the woods," she said simply, "near the big oak where the path forks." Michael and Sophia looked at each other. The next morning, they called the sheriff. A search team went out. 2 hours later, the phone rang. They had found Evelyn Whitaker, resting under leaves, peaceful in death, the way the journals had hinted she might choose. Suicide, the report said. The family sat in silence. Michael's shoulders dropped. Sophia wiped her eyes. Emma only stroked Nova's ear. She knew, the girl said. Nova knew all along. No one argued. The house felt different after that. Lighter somehow. Nova lifted her head more often now, eyes brighter. Emma stayed close, patient, trusting the slow return of strength. In the quiet spaces between breaths, something old and good was mending. Not just the dog, but the hearts that had carried too much alone. Winter had settled in by then, the air sharp with frost, the river a dark ribbon under a low moon. The house slept, but not completely. Its old timbers sighed, as if they knew something was about to change. Nova had grown stronger, though still thin, her black and tan coat beginning to shine again. She moved carefully across the living room rug, each step deliberate, her dark eyes steady on Emma. The girl, now 6 months past her grandmother's passing, had learned the rhythm of recovery. Slow walks in the yard, gentle brushes, quiet hours, side by side. One night Nova woke Emma with a soft whine. The child sat up in the dim glow of the nightlight. Nova stood at the bedroom door, ears forward, gaze fixed. Emma felt it then, not words, but pictures. Cages stacked in shadow, whimpers echoing off metal, the smell of river mud and fear. A small puppy, barely breathing. Emma's heart squeezed. "Others," she whispered. Nova's tail gave one slow sweep. The message was clear. They needed help. The adults had listened, but time moved too slowly for them. Emma understood. Some things could not wait. She slipped from bed, pulled on her pink sweater over pajamas, socks silent on the stairs. Nova followed, paws careful, no click of nails. At the back door, Emma hesitated, hand on the knob. The night outside was vast, cold pressing against the glass. She thought of her parents asleep upstairs, of the warnings they had given, danger, strangers, the ache of being lost again. Tears came hot and sudden. "I can't," she breathed. Nova stopped beside her, sat and looked up. Their eyes met. No sound, only the steady rise of Nova's chest, the warmth of her body against Emma's leg. Then the images returned. Darkness closing in, concrete, cold against fur, the long wait for air. Nova's own memory, shared without blame. Emma felt the fear loosen. This was not abandonment. This was remembering. She opened the door. Frost bit her cheeks. Nova stepped out first, glancing back once. Emma followed. They moved through backyards, past fences, silvered with ice, until they reached the street. A car idled at the curb, Mrs. Clara Thompson's old station wagon, headlights off. The woman, 72, sat behind the wheel in her navy wool coat, knit hat pulled low over white hair. She had seen the child and dog slip out, had followed quietly. Clara rolled down the window. "Where to, little one?" Her voice was soft, cracked with years. Emma climbed in, Nova settling in the back seat. "The river," Emma said. "The dogs need us." Clara looked at the girl, then at the dog whose eyes held no doubt. She put the car in gear. No questions. Only the low hum of the engine and the quiet certainty that some roads must be taken at night. The old fish plant loomed near the water, its red door peeling under moonlight. Clara parked a block away. Emma and Nova slipped out. The air smelled of rust and salt. They found a broken window low to the ground, glass jagged but wide enough. Nova went first, careful despite her still healing frame. Emma followed, heart loud in her ears. Inside, the corridor was dark, concrete cold under palms. Whimpers drifted from deeper in. They moved toward the sound. A heavy door stood ajar, light spilling beneath it. Emma pushed. The room opened, rows of cages, eyes glinting in the dim bulb. 23 dogs, some silent, some trembling. In the corner, a small pit bull mixed puppy lay curled, ribs heaving, breath shallow. Spark. Emma knelt beside the cage, fingers through the bars. The puppy lifted its head weakly. Nova stood guard at the door, hackles rising. Footsteps then, heavy, sudden. A man stepped in, broad-shouldered, face shadowed. He froze at the sight of the child and dog. His hand moved toward his belt. Nova's growl filled the room, low and deep, body low to the ground despite the tremor in her legs. The man hesitated. Emma scooped Spark close, tears falling. "Please," she whispered. "She's dying." The man took a step forward. Nova lunged, weak but fierce, teeth closing on his sleeve, pulling him off balance. He stumbled, cursing. Emma held Spark tighter, rocking. "Grandma," she sobbed into the puppy's fur. "Help her! Help them!" The words broke something open inside her. Grief, fear, love, all at once. Sirens rose in the distance, growing louder. Lights flashed through the windows. Doors crashed. Voices shouted. Officers poured in. The man was down, hands behind his back. Clara stood in the doorway, phone still in her hand, eyes wide but steady. Emma looked up, tears streaking her face. Nova released the sleeve and returned to her side, pressing against her leg. The puppy in her arms breathed a little easier. Officers moved quickly, opening cages, gentle hands, lifting dogs. Emma stayed on the floor, Spark against her chest, Nova's warmth at her back. In the chaos, she felt it. Not victory, but release. Something old had been set free. The night held them all then in its quiet mercy. Spring came gently that year, the kind of spring that arrives without fanfare. Soft green on the branches, light spilling longer across the yard. The old house no longer felt heavy. Its windows stood open, curtains moving in the breeze like slow breaths released. Mia Reyes arrived one afternoon in the back of a police cruiser, small and watchful, 8 years old with long dark hair braided neatly, wearing a pink hoodie that looked a size too big. Her eyes, wide, dark, held the caution of a child who had learned silence early. She had been found in a small town north of the river, safe but thin, her father gone now to places no one spoke of. The social worker stepped out first, but Mia's gaze went straight to the porch, where Emma waited with Nova at her side. The German shepherd sat tall now, coat glossy, black and tan, weight returned, strength in every line. Mia hesitated, then walked forward. Nova rose, tail sweeping once, and touched her nose to the girl's hand. Mia knelt. "You remember?" she whispered. Emma stood beside them, small hand on Nova's back. "She says thank you," Emma told her, "for the water you gave when no one was looking." Mia's shoulders shook once. Tears came quietly. The puppy Spark, now sturdy, brindle coat shining, bounded from the house on short legs, tail whipping. Mia scooped him up. Spark licked her chin. For the first time in months, Mia smiled. That evening, the Hayes family gathered in the living room. Michael sat on the couch in his gray hoodie, sleeves pushed up, the lines around his eyes softer than they had been in winter. Sophia beside him, cardigan loose, auburn hair catching the lamplight. Emma sat on the rug between them, Nova curled close, Spark asleep against her knee. The room smelled of coffee and the faint sweetness of cut flowers someone had brought. Nova lifted her head, eyes on Emma. The girl closed her own for a moment. Pictures came, worry in Michael's hands clenched at night, Sophia's quiet tears in the kitchen, the fear of losing another piece of their small world. Emma opened her eyes. "They were scared," she said softly. "Scared I'd go away like Grandma." Michael's throat worked. Sophia reached for Emma's hand. The girl looked up at them. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I didn't mean to make you worry." The words hung there, simple and true. Michael leaned forward, arms open. Emma climbed into them. Sophia joined, her cheek against Emma's hair. Tears came without sound. Relief, love, the ache of almost losing what mattered most. Nova rose, pressed between them, tongue brushing cheeks, a warm insistence that said, "We are here. We are together." The room held them in its quiet light, the old grief loosening at last. Weeks passed. The story faded from the papers, but not from the neighborhood. People remembered the girl who heard dogs, the dog who heard her back. They called it a miracle. The Hayes family called it something simpler, love that refused to let go. One Saturday in May, they held a small gathering in the backyard. Tables under the oak, lemonade in pitchers, children running. Nova trotted across the grass, tail high, Spark tumbling beside her. Clara Thompson sat in a lawn chair, navy coat folded over her lap, watching with a smile that carried years. Elena Reyes came too, blouse traded for a light sweater, her steady hands now holding a cup of tea instead of a syringe. Mia and Spark stayed close, the girls' laughter soft but real. Emma moved among them, small and sure, stopping to rest her hand on Nova's head. The dog looked up, eyes calm, as if to say, "We did this." We kept going. As the sun dipped low, painting the yard gold, Emma sat on the porch steps with Nova beside her. The air smelled of cut grass and distant rain. She leaned against the warm fur, fingers tracing an ear. "We saved each other," she murmured. Nova rested her head on Emma's knee. The family watched from the lawn, Michael's arm around Sophia, Mia laughing as Spark chased a butterfly. No one spoke for a long moment. The light held them gently. In that stillness, the old wounds felt smaller, not gone, but carried with care. Love had done its quiet work. It was enough. As the years gather, many of us find ourselves in quiet rooms, the silence heavier than we ever imagined. Loneliness creeping in like an old friend who overstayed, illness reminding us the body isn't what it used to be. But stories like Emma and Nova remind us, love still finds a way through the walls we build around our hearts. You are not forgotten. Your stories matter. Reach out today. Call a friend. Pet a dog. Share a memory. You are loved more than you know. If this touched your heart, please leave a comment below with your own quiet story, share this video with someone who needs hope, and subscribe so we can keep walking this road together. May the Lord bless and keep you, heal your body, and fill your days with gentle peace. You are never alone.